All right, Steeler fans, it's time for the mailbag segment. Every Wednesday on the Let's Ride podcast, and the second half is when I dive headfirst into the mailbag segment. If you're watching this, maybe on YouTube, I put the segment there. If you're listening to this and you wonder, how do I get my question answered? Find me on Twitter. You don't have to follow me. Just find me there. Every Tuesday morning, I put out the tweet. Find me at Hartman, HARTMAN_PIT. I ask, you respond. I answer your question live on the show. Let's get this show started with Thomas. He says, I'm just seeing that Terrell Edmunds was released by the Jaguars. Could the Steelers bring him back? They absolutely could. But he's going to have to be okay with the role if he comes back. So this is one of the situations where if they bring back Edmunds, you could see someone like Elliott, who I just spoke of, Jalen Elliott, he gets cut because of that. But Edmunds would have to play special teams. He would have to play special teams. And so I don't know if that'll happen or not. We'll see. But Terrell Edmunds, I think if Fitzpatrick had his best years with Terrell Edmunds in the secondary. Let's go to Jeff Coons. He said, greetings from Not Matt, Canada. I've been inside the lab assessing the division of labor. This defense will be senior varsity, and the team will be competitive once the games count. Jeff, through the preseason, name one player who has exceeded your expectations and one who has disappointed you. Naming Cameron Johnston, the preseason MVP, is perfectly acceptable answer. All right. So one preseason player who's exceeded my expectations. Well, let me think about that. When I'm going to have to say, this sounds crazy, but I'm going to have to say that on defense, Nick Herbig exceeded my expectations. The guy, you could see his improvement. He was dynamic last year. He looks even more dynamic now. So I'm going to go with Nick Herbig on defense. On offense, I'm trying to think who would exceed I would say that probably, and again, Zach Frazier was told to be the guy. He's going to start eventually. I've been really impressed with what I've seen from him. So I'm going to say those two guys, Zach Frazier and Nick Herbig, are the ones. Now, in terms of disappointing players that I expected more out of, in this regard, I'm going to say I expected more out of, and there's so many players I could pick. I expected more out of Darius Rush. If I'm going to be honest, I expected more out of Darius Rush. I thought Darius Rush had a lot of potential, and it's not that he played poorly. I just expected more. We all saw Corey Trice rise to the occasion and rise to the challenge at times, and it just seemed like Darius Rush didn't do that. Maybe he didn't get the opportunity, and that's fair, but that's who I'm going to go with. Let's go to Believers. He had 2 polls. Ride or Die Crew poll of the week. He said, with preseason over and the season around the corner, my feelings about the Steelers' chances this year compared to before camp are... The options are they are better, about the same, or they are worse. I said about the same because there's still questions to be answered. They have not been answered in camps. I'm going to say they're about the same. Next, Ride or Die Crew poll of the week 2. Which position is in dire need of an upgrade / depth? Still, options, wide receiver, offensive line, defensive line, and cornerback. Now, most people would say I went with corner. No, I went with wide receiver. I think that is the position of need for sure. All right, let's go to Thomas again. The cornerback room still looks like it has issues. Do you see Patrick Peterson coming back to maybe hold down the slot role till Sutton is back? I've said this openly on this podcast for weeks now. I would be A-okay with Patrick Peterson coming back. I think he would be a good fit. I think the Steelers would be smart to do it. I think that's a good move. But again, I don't know. I don't know if they'll make that move. He has to be okay with the role, just like I talked about with Edmunds. Let's go to Zach Farnsworth. Hey, Jeff, do you see the Steelers bringing in someone out from outside to provide major contributions like Joe Hayden did when the Steelers signed him? Or do you see any additions the team makes now as marginal players that fill a hole but don't move the needle much? I would say more of the latter. I know people want Ayuk, and I think the Steelers do too, but they're not going to budge on their price. And so unless the 49ers say, okay, we'll give it to you, what you asked for, and you work out a contract with him. Unless they do that, the Steelers are not going to move, and I think they will make some moves, but I don't think they're going to move the needle much, unfortunately. Brian Haynes asked a couple questions. He said 5 wide receivers for the initial roster. How many players will be on the 53-man roster come game 1 who aren't on the team at this moment? So if I were setting an over-under line here, I'd say that players that aren't on the team right now, but would be on the team for the week 1 roster, I would say that I'd set that line at 2.5. I'd set it at 2.5, and I'm actually going to go slightly under with 2. I think they're going to have 2 players on that list. It's a good question, by the way. Another one from Brian. He's referring to my GIF, which was the an Austin Powers GIF. He said, "What's your favorite part of the Austin Powers series? I love the music video for Daddy Wasn't There." For me, I've always thought what was hysterical was in every single movie when they do all the innuendos. And for instance, I think it's in the first one where you see it's a bunch of people looking at radar and stuff, and it's a military room, and they all of a sudden someone goes, "Oh my gosh, sir, look at this. It looks like a giant." And then they break away and someone yells, "Johnson, Johnson, come here, Johnson. You just got yourself an upgrade," or something like that. And then they look up in the air and they go, "Oh my gosh, what is that? That looks like a giant." You get where I'm going. I've always thought that was so funny. And those movies are hysterical. Let's go to RJ McCollum. He says, "So I'm jumping the gun a little bit. With this being James Daniels last year, what's the plan for right guard? Why aren't we working McCormick in on right guard instead of left guard?" It's a great question. I don't know if left guard is his more natural position, if he's more of a right guard, and that's where he naturally plays. I understand why they're working him at left. If he knows how to play right guard already, and this year they need him to be flexible, to be both positions, you have to get him acclimated to the other side. If the plan is, listen, Mason, next year you're going to be right guard. James Daniels is going to be gone. It's going to be your job. You know how to do that. You know what the position entails. But with this year, we need you to be the swing guard. In case something happens to Sayamalu, in case something happens to Daniels, you have to be able to play both. That's my only guess. All right, Afton Forehead said, "It's about time to order a new t-shirt. Do you have any new designs?" That's a great question. If anyone is ever interested in some of our merch, all you have to do is you can find me on Twitter, and at the pinned tweet at the top, right there, it says the link on how to find our store. But if you want it, here it is, scnstore.itemorder.com/shop home. That's it. So again, scnstore.itemorder.com/shop/home. You'll find it right there. Again, the easiest way is to search on Twitter, find me, the pinned tweet gives you an example. But to answer your question, Afton, yes, I am looking at some new designs, or I'm thinking about some slogans to put on shirts. If you all have any possible ideas that you would want to throw my way, absolutely let me know, and I'd love to entertain them, and we'll get those on the store ASAP. I need to refresh that. All right, let's go to Eric. "Hey, Jeff, love the podcast. With how much Mike Tomlin is a draw for players wanting to come here, do you think the facilities, i.e. the stadium, practice facility, and ownership, are why players don't want to come here?" I don't know. I mean, obviously those NFLPA polls that went out last year were not very glowing of the Steelers and of their facilities. But I think that more people want to play for Tomlin than people that don't want to come to Pittsburgh. So it's interesting. That's an interesting question. And unfortunately, as someone that's not a player, I can't answer that. I honestly can't answer that. So, all right, let's move on. Heath Davis asked 3 questions. Here we go. El Jefe. "Russ's numbers last year were better than Pickett's, but knowing the media, if he isn't making big time plays, the narrative will be that we're struggling again. How many wins will it take for them to get off our back? And do you see it happening?" I don't think it's a necessary number of wins. I think it's the Steelers coming out of the gate strong, winning games. The offense doesn't have to look elite, but at least prolific, potentially with a lot of potential attached to it. I think they have to put up points, scoring over 20 on more occasions than not relying on the defense to win every single game. Do that, and people will start to change the narrative. Next question from Heath. "My prediction for the Steelers record: start 1-3, win out until the bye week, 6-3, 5-1 in the division to be 11-4, and then we win either the Chiefs or Eagles to finish 12-4 and win a playoff game. Is mine realistic? What's your prediction?" Well, I hate to tell you this, but you missed a game. So if they split with the Chiefs or Eagles, it'd be 12-5. That's okay. It's a typo. Not going to harp on it. I don't know if that's realistic. I don't think they start 1-3. I'll tell you that. I think they win more of these games than they don't. I like them down in Atlanta. I really do. Going back to Denver is tough, but with the fact that Bo Nix is only going to be playing in his second game as a rookie against TJ Watt in that defense, I like their odds in Denver for sure. I don't think 1-3 is in the cards. Week 3 is going to be tough with the Chargers, but that's the home opener. They typically do well there unless they're starting the year there like they did last year. So I'm going to say, I still say this. People ask me this all the time, even people that I know or people that I see they see me wearing Steelers stuff. I think the floor is that the Steelers, the worst they do is 9-8. That's the bottom of the barrel. The best that they could do, I think, is 13 wins, in which case they would be 13 and 13 and 5. No, 17 games. Jeez, Jeff, 13 and 4. I will see. We'll see how that works out. 17 games slate. Ugh, I think this is the range right there. All right. And I think that's it we got one more from Heath. Final question and a heart to heart. Is there anything you are looking forward to this football season? It can be anything. What I'm looking forward to is just watching games again. I love sitting down and watching football. I love watching Steelers games. I love talking about that. I love talking about like our NFL podcast on the FFS NFL feed. Got a new one coming up on Friday that I do with Wesley Coleman. We're calling it For Your Viewing Pleasure. It's all about kind of rating the games and which games are going to be the best to watch. I just love talking about football. So I love everything about it. And then he said, I want to say that I enjoy the podcast you guys put together. I know it's a labor of love and it takes a lot of work. I appreciate you guys. Hashtag Ride or Die Crew. Thank you, Heath. I appreciate the kind words because it does help when you're grinding away and there's that people out there listening and they tune in every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and every day for that matter, and they enjoy the content. So thank you very much. All right, let's go to Tendercat. He said, I know a lot of Steelers fans have turned on Mike Tomlin, including me, starting to lose faith in him excelling in the postseason. What would have to happen for you to start turning on Tomlin? I don't know if there's one thing, I mean, people would say, well, if he gets to the playoffs or if he misses the playoffs, the dude just signed a 3-year extension. The Steelers are not going to renege on that deal. I would be stunned. It would have to be a monumental collapse. Monumental. But there's so many different factors. It's really tough for me to answer that question if I'm being honest. Next, Tendercat says, what would your reaction be if the Steelers flopped on the first game again? Well, again, what is the flop? Like what does it look like? What is the final score? Is it just that they lose? If you give me a little bit more detail, if they absolutely get annihilated by Atlanta, that would be a wake-up call. I don't see that happening, but you never know. It's a decent roster. Not going to lie. Decent roster down there. All right, let's go to B. Selfridge. Have you ever heard of this Brandon Ayuk fella? Could possibly be a good trade target. Yes, unfortunately, I have heard of Brandon Ayuk, and I know you're joking, but we'll see if a trade happens. I'm not banking on it. I'll put it that way. All right, let's go to Ed Cunningham. I'm a football/basketball guy, not a baseball fan, so summers are difficult. But Let's Ride really helped me get through it. Thank you, Jeff. So, what's up with Steeler fans? Is it me, or do they get more negative and cringy every year? Is it clickbait media inducing this? I think that you are spot on. It's the way the media is starting to change narratives and twist narratives, and to really just the way that they do things is kind of sketchy. And fans fall into that trap. And next thing you know, they're reading a lot of this smut and they're believing a lot of this garbage. And then they start having these emotional thoughts and feelings and they're saying these things. I think it has a lot to do with the media, if I'm being completely honest. But thank you, Ed, for the kind words. I'm glad that we got you through the dead period. We are back. We are back for sure. Let's go to Brandon Diaz. He has several questions. Assuming this is recorded after the cuts, yes. Surprise player cut. I'll go with Gilbert, the cornerback. Surprise that made the 53. I'll go with Jalen Elliott. Will our first trade post cut down be on the offense or defense? I think it will be on the offense if they have to trade at all. I think they might just sign and acquire a player. As it stands today, do we beat Atlanta week 1? I personally have my doubts. I think they do. And then what is the biggest takeaway from the preseason? No major injuries to key players. That's the biggest takeaway from the preseason. TJ Watt didn't play. Good. Cam, good. Minka, good. Inside linebackers, good. You know where I'm going with this. Quarterbacks, pretty much good. Pat Freiermuth, good. Offensive line, yes. Okay, so that's where I'm going. They got out of it healthy. That's all I care about. All right, let's go to James. He says, first off, fantastic gift. That's obviously the Austin Powers. He said, keeping the theme here, what is the one thing in the first game that will have you saying smashing? Just give me the first big George Pickens catch. First big play. That's what I want to see. I'm an offensive guy. Some people are defensive guys and they love the defense. They do. But I'm an offensive guy. I want to see the offense push the ball down the field. I love that stuff. All right, let's go to Brandon. What do you think happens at tackle if Troy is healthy and starts at right tackle? Broderick goes to left tackle or goes on the bench at swing tackle? This is Brandon from Elm Grove. Elm Grove Ride or Die Crew. I love it. I love it. My hometown, my home neighborhood in my hometown. So thank you, Brandon, for chiming in. For me, I think that Broderick Jones would go to the bench, but I think it would all be planned. I think Broderick Jones is hurt. I think he's banged up. And so I believe that what they're going to do is that they are going to actually, if Troy Fautanu is healthy and starts in week 1 at right tackle, I think they're going to say, look, Broderick Jones is going to, we need you to get right. And so get yourself healthy, get that arm feeling better. And then they insert him at left tackle and he stays there for the rest of the season. So fans, try not to overreact if that's what happens, because that could be the plan. That could be the plan. They can't let him rest right now. They don't have enough tackles. So keep that in the back of your mind. Good question. Let's finish this up like we always do. Steeler fan 69. He said, hello. A genie granted me one wish, so I wish to be happy. Now I live with 6 dwarves and work in a mine. Okay, did you hear that FedEx and UPS were merging? They're going to be called FedUps. You know, not everyone thinks of Cleopatra as beautiful, but that's how Julius Caesar. I love it. Love that stuff. Thank you very much. I appreciate everyone. And I'm going to direct your attention to DraftKings. They are helping us out this year as a partner for at least the first 5 weeks of the regular season. If you missed the mid-roll ad in between these 2 segments, give the Pick 6 a try. Use the code CURTAIN. Get yourself some free stuff. You bet 5, you get $50 just by using the code CURTAIN on the Pick 6 DraftKings app. And on top of that, you also get a month free of NFL Plus Premium. Go do it. What are we waiting for? Go do it. Help us out. Help DraftKings. Win yourself some cash. Bet $5, get $50 in plays for free. It's a lot of fun. Go check it out. All right. That's it. I'll be back on Friday of the All Bets Are Off segment. We're going to have a lot to talk about, and we're going to really start changing gears. Looking forward to next week. Getting ready for week 1. It is here, folks. Finally, thank goodness. I hope you all have a great rest of your week. You know how we finished out. Be safe, be kind, and God bless. We'll see you on Friday. Go Steelers.